Hey, today we're doing a repair on a Ford Ranger 2010 model. Got the 5-speed automatic in it. And what's happening when it warms up, it's jumping in and out of gears, especially when it's under load going up hills. Okay, I've just got the scan tool on there. And we've got over temperature problem with it, overheating, a P1783. Now this one's a 2-wheel drive 5R55 SW transmission, and you can see that the plug, there's a big nut on the outside and a little one in the middle, and that's actually how you measure the oil level. There's a little tube inside that middle one, and if you want to drain all the oil out, you take the big one off. You'll see that in a moment. Good idea to give it a good clean around, especially if there's a solenoid problem. You've got to take off this little heat shield here, and there's a plug with a bolt through the electrical plug that you need to remove before you can pull that plug out. Good idea to also just check all the universal joints, the centre bearing, make sure that's all okay while we've got it up. And the rubber mount there as well on the transmission and even up on the engine. And also to have a good look around, make sure there's no oil leaks. We've got the pan off. You can see the solenoid block here. They're just bolts that you take off and it'll come down. But first you need to take off the little plug on the top there so you can actually slide that down. Make sure you clean it as best as you can. And also, if you have a look up there, you can adjust the 2 front bands on these. The rear one you can't. The servo for the rear band's here. You can see the little tube there that I'm talking about, where you take that middle plug out, and that's what measures the oil level in the transmission. You can see the magnet's covered in that fine metal, so no doubt that's gone and contaminated the solenoids as well. And the oil is pretty well black in there. And these are a 10mm bolt. You just undo it and pull that plug out. Just make sure you've, again, cleaned it very well, because this little part of the plug goes through the case there. You don't want any of that muck falling in there and causing issues down the track. And now we'll just take the T30 Torx head bolts. A little bit hard to see because the exhaust's in the road, but the front band adjustment, 14 Newton meter, back off 2 turns. The front one's the overdrive, the middle one's the intermediate, which is the same, 14 Newton meter, back off 2 turns. These transmissions in a car, you can back it off 1.5 turns in a car. And the rear band, you can't adjust. You can see the servos over here. So a good idea to mark it with a bit of liquid paper before you start doing it up, and that'll give you an indication of whether the band's worn. On these, the bore in the case where the servo piston rod travels through will wear out. You can get kits that you rebush that the worn bit in the case if it is really worn out, and that's over here on the driver's side or the right hand side of the transmission. That's where the servo pistons are applying it. The piston on the low and reverse moves up and down like that. And there's a little bit of a diagram there on the ATSG shop manual, and you can see the transmission's upside down on this one, but the front one is still at the front. And it also mentions 1.5 turns for cars if you have a look over here. Now it's a little bit hard to see, but the front band or the overdrive was about 1/2 turn out, and the intermediate was about 1/4 turn out. You can see where the liquid paper marks were. Always important to mark it so you've got a reference point. And you tighten it up to 10 Newton metre or about 90 inch-pound. When you're putting the plug back in, just make sure you let it pull itself in, otherwise you'll end up bending the little terminals. And I forgot to show, you've got to actually purge the air out of these solenoid blocks. We do it with the vacuum pump. I've got that in another video if you care to check it out. But if you don't have that, what you do is you leave the worm trails facing up and immerse it in the synthetic fluid, or suitable one, and just leave it for a little while, and a lot of the air bubbles should come out of it. The filter, make sure you get the one with the right snorkel length. These are 60mm because they're 4-wheel drive, or well, it's not 4-wheel drive, but they have the 60mm one. There are 2 other sizes. The filter has also got the seals on it. And as per usual, we put the magnet up on these ridges, hopefully so the magnet can work top and bottom. And we're adding a neodymium magnet in there because there was a fair bit of rubbish in there. Now you need to have a little tube to fill these, and you're filling through that middle screw, not the outer one. The outer one's a drain for it. And what we've done to save pumping it through that little hose a little bit, we've put about 4 litres of transmission fluid in the pan already. I can go up now and just start it up briefly and turn it off, and then I can just fill it a little bit more. We'll probably need about 5 to 6 litres because we've replaced the solenoid block on there. And the idea is to have the transmission at between 30 and 50 degrees with the motor running, and it should be just trickling out of that middle plug there, which is that little tube, if you remember, in the pan. I'm just going to start it briefly, and that'll pump all the oil back through the transmission, and turn it off again, and we'll just top it up at the bottom again till it's coming out of that tube. The idea is to fill it till the oil's just coming out of there at 30 to 50 degrees. That looks like it's about right there. We're on 41 degrees. You can either test it like this or with the live data on, with your scan tool on the OBD2 port, but I've done tests and pretty much of a muchness, whatever's easier for you. So that's right, at 41 degrees the oil's just coming down. It did warm up a little bit when we turned it off. It was on about 38, which is ideal. There we go, I've just had it for a test run. Sometimes you might need to do the readaptation on the transmission if you've replaced the solenoid block. This one seemed okay, and it will readapt on its own just as you're driving over the next 100 or 200 kilometres anyway. I hope that's helped. Don't forget to buy me a beer if you've had any help or information that's worth a beer. Don't forget to subscribe and leave any comments below the video. Thank you for watching.